The night I discovered my husband was secretly planning to divorce me, I didn't cry. I strategized. He thought he was clever hiding his affair, meeting with lawyers, preparing to strip me of everything. What he didn't know was that before he could file, I quietly moved all $700 million of my assets into a trust under my control. 1 week later, he served me the papers with a smug smile. And then his face went pale when he realized what I had done. The moment I found out my husband was planning to divorce me, I didn't scream, I didn't break down, I calculated. It was a Tuesday evening, one of those quiet nights when the house felt like it belonged to me alone. He said he'd be working late at the office. But I'd already learned not to believe his excuses. Too many late nights. Too many unexplained business trips. Too many lingering scents of perfume on his shirts that definitely weren't mine. Still, nothing compared to what I found on his laptop. I wasn't snooping. At least, that's what I told myself. He'd left it open on the desk in his study, the screen still glowing faintly as if daring me to look. Normally, I respected privacy, I had nothing to hide, and I believed for far too long that he didn't either. But that night, curiosity was stronger than restraint, and curiosity shattered the last illusion I had about my marriage. The email thread was short, concise, and terrifying. Subject line: divorce strategy, assets. My husband, the man I'd trusted for over a decade, was plotting with his lawyer about how to quietly file for divorce. Not only did he wanted to ambush me, strip me of what was mine, and leave me blindsided. He'd written, "She won't see it coming. If we freeze the accounts quickly, I can push for majority control. She'll be too shocked to fight back." My blood ran cold. $700 million. That's what our combined assets were worth, thanks to the empire I built before he even entered my life. I'd been the strategist, the investor, the risk-taker. He was the one who married into my world and wore the crown as if he'd earned it. And now, he thought he could take it all away. I remember sinking into the leather chair, staring at the screen as my hands shook. Anger. Betrayal. But above all, clarity. If he thought I would sit back and let him rob me, he had underestimated me in the most fatal way possible. That night, I made a decision. A quiet one. A ruthless one. Before he could file, before he could make a single move against me, I would move everything, every last cent, every share, every property deed somewhere untouchable. Somewhere he couldn't reach. The next morning, I woke up beside him as if nothing had happened. He kissed my everything, I said. 700 million. Every cent. There was a pause. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. Does your husband know? No, I whispered. And he never will. That was the moment the game truly began. Moving that much money wasn't as simple as pressing a button. It was an elaborate dance of trusts, offshore accounts, silent transfers, and airtight contracts. Claire guided me through every step, making sure not a single trace pointed back to me until I wanted it to. Meanwhile, at home, I played my role perfectly. The dutiful wife. The calm partner. The woman who had no idea her husband was sharpening knives behind her back, but every time he smiled at me, every time he touched me, I thought of those words on the screen, "She won't see it coming." Oh, but I did see it coming. And I was going to make sure he never recovered from what I was about to do. The week passed in a blur of secrecy. I signed documents under aliases. I wired amounts that would make governments raise eyebrows if they knew. I transferred properties into trusts so hidden that not even the IRS could untangle them without a map, and by the end of that week, I had done it. $700 million safe. Protected. Out of his reach. The timing couldn't have been more perfect, because exactly 1 week later, he walked into the house with a smirk I will never forget. "I think we need to talk," he said, his voice laced with rehearsed pity. He held a manila envelope in his hand. Divorce papers. I forced my face into a mask of shock, just as he expected. My hands trembled as I took the envelope, my eyes wide, my lips trembling as though I were broken. But inside, I was laughing, because I knew something he didn't, something that would make him panic in ways he never imagined, and it was only a matter of time before the game turned on him. When he slid the divorce papers across the table, his smile was the kind that made my stomach turn. Arrogant. Confident. The smile of a man who believed he had already won. "I think this is for the best," he said smoothly, as though this was some noble act. "We've grown apart. I want to make this as painless as possible for you." For me, I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from laughing in his face. Painless? He had no idea the storm that was about to crash down on him. I played my role well. My eyes filled with tears, my hands shook as I unfolded the papers, and I whispered, "I don't understand." Of course, I understood perfectly. He wanted my empire. The businesses, the properties, the accounts, the luxury that I had built with my own hands long before he came along. He wanted to strip me bare and watch me crumble while he walked away the conqueror, but he didn't know that his treasure chest was already empty. The first crack in his confidence came the very next morning. I was sipping coffee in the kitchen when I heard his voice from the study, sharp, panicked, rising in volume with each word. "What do you mean the account is empty?" He barked into the phone. I leaned against the counter, hiding a smile. The performance was better than I expected. "I don't care about protocols," he shouted. "There's supposed to be $700 million in that portfolio. Where the hell is it?" There it was. The moment I'd been waiting for. He stormed into the kitchen minutes later, his face flushed, his tie loosened, his mask of control slipping for the first time. "Did you move money out of the accounts?" he demanded. I blinked at him, tilting my head like a confused child. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb with me," he snapped. "The money's gone. All of it. $700 million doesn't just vanish overnight." I let my lips part in shock, widening my eyes just enough. "Gone? What do you mean, gone?" His hands balled into fists. He was unraveling, and oh, how sweet it was to watch. The next few days were a symphony of chaos. He called every lawyer he knew, screaming into phones, demanding answers that no one could give him. He accused his advisors of incompetence, his bankers of fraud, his accountants of theft. I watched from the sidelines, my face a mask of innocence, while inside, I savored every second, because the truth was, the money hadn't disappeared. It had simply shifted. Moved into places he couldn't touch, wrapped in legal structures so complex that even if he hired the best investigators in the world, they would find nothing. He thought he was the hunter. But now, he was the prey snared in a trap of his own making. The panic deepened with each passing hour. He stopped sleeping. He paced the halls at night like a caged animal. He slammed doors, shattered glasses, muttered curses under his breath when he thought I couldn't hear, and when he finally confronted me again, his mask was gone completely. "You did this," he snarled, grabbing my arm. His grip was tight, almost painful. "You moved the money. You're trying to ruin me." I looked at him with wide, tearful eyes. "I don't know what you're talking about," I whispered. He shoved me back, his face twisted with rage. "Don't lie to me." But the beauty of it all was that I didn't have to lie. Not really. Every transfer, every move I made, had been perfectly legal. Untouchable. He could suspect all he wanted, but proving it? That was another story. The climax of his panic came one night when he barged into the bedroom. His phone clutched in his hand. His face was pale, his eyes wild. "They froze me out," he muttered, almost to himself. "Everything's gone. The lawyers say I don't have a claim to a single cent." How? How is that possible? I sat up slowly, my heart pounding not from fear, but from satisfaction. "Maybe," I said softly, "you underestimated me." For the first time in our marriage, he looked at me not as a wife, not as a woman to control but as an enemy, and that's when I knew the real war had begun. Desperation changes a man. For years, my husband had walked through life with the posture of a king. Confident. Entitled. Smug in the belief that no matter what happened, the world would bend to his will. But now, stripped of control, he looked like a crumbling statue still standing tall on the outside, but cracking, pieces breaking off with every hour that passed. At first, he tried rage. Shouting, accusing, throwing threats like daggers. But when those bounced off me like pebbles against stone, he tried something else. He tried charm. It started one morning over breakfast. He came downstairs freshly shaved, dressed in a casual shirt instead of his usual tailored armor, and smiled at me as if nothing had happened. "Good morning," he said lightly, pouring himself coffee. His tone was warm, too warm. I glanced up from my paper. "Morning." He sat across from me, studying me with eyes that had once convinced me to marry him. Those same eyes that now reminded me of a predator pretending to be tame. "I've been thinking," he began slowly, "maybe we rushed into all this divorce talk. Maybe we should take a step back. Reconsider." My lips twitched. He wasn't even subtle. "Reconsider?" I repeated, feigning innocence. He leaned forward, reaching across the table to touch my hand. His palm was warm, but it made my skin crawl. "You and we built something incredible together. I don't want to throw that away over misunderstandings." I tilted my head. "Misunderstandings? You hired a lawyer behind my back and filed for divorce." He winced but didn't let go of my hand. "I was under a lot of stress. People were putting ideas in my head. But when I think about you, about us, I realize I don't want to lose you." His words dripped like honey, but I could taste the poison beneath. He didn't want me. He wanted my money. Later that evening, the manipulation shifted gears. He came home with flowers. My favorite orchids. The same kind he used to bring me when we first dated. He set them on the counter with a sheepish smile. "Remember when I gave you these on our first anniversary?" He asked softly. I did. I remembered the way I'd smiled, the way I'd believed he was everything I'd ever wanted. And I remembered the way he'd kissed me that night, making promises he would later break without a second thought. "Yes," I said flatly, brushing past him, but he wasn't finished. That night, he cooked dinner. He set the table, opened a bottle of wine, and lit candles as though we were reliving some fairy tale evening from our past. "To us," he said, raising his glass. I clinked it with mine, meeting his gaze steadily. "To us?" I echoed. But inside, I thought, "To your downfall." The act continued for days. Sweet words. Gentle touches. Apologies whispered in the dark. For a moment, I almost admired his performance. Almost, but I knew better, because late one night, when he thought I was asleep, I overheard him on the phone. His voice was low, hushed, but I caught enough to know the truth. "She's not budging," he hissed. "I don't know how she did it, but the money's gone." "No, don't worry, I'll get it back. She's still soft. She still loves me. I just need more time." There it was. The dagger behind the smile. He wasn't trying to reconcile. He was buying time. Manipulating me into letting my guard down. Hoping I'd slip, hoping he could claw his way back into control, but if he thought love was still his weapon, he had already lost. By the end of the week, the cracks in his performance began to show. His patience wore thin, his smiles became forced, and his touches lingered just a little too long, as if clinging to the illusion of power he no longer had. And then, one night, the mask slipped entirely. We were sitting in the living room, the silence heavy between us, when he suddenly turned to me. His eyes were dark, his jaw clenched. "You think you're clever," he said quietly. I set my glass down. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You moved the money. Don't bother denying it." He leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. "I don't know how you did it, but I'll find out. And when I do, you'll regret crossing me." A chill ran down my spine, not from fear, but from realization. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was war. When betrayal comes, it never comes alone. It comes in layers. Lies stacked on top of lies, secrets nested inside one another, like Russian dolls. I had already uncovered his plan to divorce me, to strip me of everything. That was betrayal enough. But I knew deep down that men like him rarely stop at financial treachery. They crave validation, adoration, conquest, and sure enough, I found her. It wasn't difficult. Men like my husband are careless when they feel invincible. His cologne lingered too strong when he came home late, his shirt smelled faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. And once, I found a strand of blonde hair on the passenger seat of his car, but it was the phone call that confirmed it. One night, as he showered, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. Normally, I wouldn't have touched it. But after everything I'd discovered, my boundaries had already been burned to ash. The message lit up the screen. When are you telling her? You promised me it'd be soon. I'm not waiting forever. My heart didn't race this time. It didn't even hurt. It simply hardened. There she was, the other woman. The mistress he thought he could keep hidden. Over the next few days, I learned more. Her name was Vanessa. She was younger than me by at least 10 years, glamorous in a flashy, shallow way that men like him found irresistible. I pictured her with perfectly styled hair, designer handbags bought on credit, and lips that curved into a pout when she didn't get her way, and apparently, she wasn't just in it for romance. Because in another message, I read, "You told me you'd have access to the money once the divorce went through. Don't keep me waiting, baby. I left everything for you." There it was, not just betrayal of love, but betrayal of loyalty. He had promised her my empire. He was dangling my 700 million like a carrot in front of her, stringing her along with promises he could never keep because I had already cut the strings. The irony was delicious. While he sat across from me at dinner, trying to manipulate me with apologies and flowers, he was simultaneously whispering lies into Vanessa's ear. He was juggling two worlds, and both were slipping through his fingers. I almost pitied him. Almost. The cracks widened when Vanessa's patience ran thin. I overheard him one night, pacing the study, his voice hushed but urgent. "Baby, you have to trust me. These things take time. She's being difficult." A pause. Then, sharper, "No, don't threaten me. I told you, I'll get the money. Just give me a little longer." I smiled in the dark. Vanessa wasn't just a mistress, she was leverage. And she was growing restless. The confrontation came sooner than I expected. One afternoon, I returned home from a meeting to find a car parked in front of our house. A sleek red sports car. The kind that screamed, "Look at me." And standing on the porch, arms crossed, was Vanessa. She was exactly as I'd imagined. Blonde hair cascading over her shoulders, designer heels clicking against the concrete, lips painted a bold red that matched her car. When she saw me, her expression faltered. She hadn't expected me. "Can I help you?" I asked coolly, setting down my bag. Her eyes flicked over me, assessing, calculating. Then she smiled sweetly, too sweetly. "I'm here to see him," she said, her voice dripping with faux confidence. I tilted my head. "And you are?" She hesitated, just for a second, then lifted her chin. "A friend." A friend, I could have laughed. But instead, I simply nodded. "Of course. He's inside." And with that, I opened the door and let her walk into the lion's den. The look on my husband's face when he saw her standing in our living room was priceless. His eyes widened, his mouth opened, and for the first time, he seemed truly speechless. "Vanessa," he stammered, glancing at me. "What are you?" She cut him off, her voice sharp. "You've been ignoring me. I told you, I'm not waiting around forever." I stood by the doorway, arms crossed, watching the show. His gaze darted between us, panic flickering in his eyes. This isn't the time, but Vanessa wasn't listening. She turned to me, her smile tight. "He's been promising me a future. Did you know that?" The silence was electric. My husband froze, his face draining of color. "And me?" I smiled. "Oh, I know," I said softly. "I know everything." The silence that followed my words was thick enough to choke on. Vanessa blinked at me, processing, while my husband's face crumpled into a mask of panic. He looked like a magician caught halfway through a trick, with the rabbit dead in his hand and the audience staring in disgust. He started, his voice strangled. "This isn't," but Vanessa cut him off. "You told me she didn't know." Her voice was sharp, cutting through the tension like glass shattering on the floor. She turned to me, her eyes narrowing. So you've known? This whole time? I smiled faintly, letting just enough coldness bleed into my tone. Oh, I've known. Longer than you think. My husband rubbed his temples, muttering curses under his breath, then snapped, Vanessa, this isn't the place, don't you dare try to shut me up. She hissed. I've given up everything for you. My job, my apartment, my reputational because you promised me a future. You told me you'd have the money once the divorce went through. Where is it, huh? Where's the 700 million you swore you'd control? Her words landed like bombs, each one detonating against the fragile walls of his ego, and I simply sat back and watched the explosion. That was when I realized something crucial. Vanessa wasn't just a mistress. She was leverage. A blade I could sharpen and point at him whenever I wished. 700 million? I echoed softly, raising a brow. My. Quite the promise. My husband shot me a warning look, but I ignored it. Vanessa's eyes flicked between us, suspicion dawning. Wait a second. Don't tell me. She turned to him, her face twisting with fury. You lied to me, didn't you? You told me you'd be rich once she was out of the picture. But she's not out of the picture. And the money, where the hell is the money? He grabbed her arm, lowering his voice. Keep your voice down. But Vanessa wrenched free, her heels clacking angrily against the hardwood. No. I want answers. You strung me along for months, and now what? You expect me to just sit around while you play house with her? The irony of it all nearly made me laugh. The man who thought he could control both of us was now losing control of everything, and that was when I struck. Vanessa, I said gently, standing and stepping closer. She looked at me, startled, as though unsure whether I was friend or foe. You're not the first woman he's lied to, I continued. And you won't be the last. He's very good at making promises he can't keep. Believe me, I know. Her lips parted, her anger momentarily redirected. He told you I was the obstacle, didn't he? I asked softly. That I was the reason you didn't have the life you promised. You. But the truth is. I leaned in, my voice dropping. He never planned to give you anything. Not the money. Not the future. Nothing. My husband slammed his hand against the table. Stop it. Stop filling her head with lies. But Vanessa was already wavering, her eyes narrowing at him. Is that true? Were you just using me? Of course not. He snapped, too quickly, too harshly, and I knew in that instant I had her. Over the next week, I played my game carefully. I didn't confront her directly again. I didn't need to. A few pointed looks, a few carefully chosen words dropped in her presence, and the cracks began to widen. Vanessa's messages grew colder. Her visits grew sharper. More demanding. My husband started to sweat every time his phone buzzed. I heard him one night, whispering into the receiver, his voice tight, "Baby, you have to trust me. I'll fix this. Just don't talk to anyone else. Especially not her." Her. Me. He was terrified we'd form an alliance. And the thought amused me more than I could ever admit. The breaking point came one Friday evening. We were sitting at the dinner table, the tension so thick it was suffocating, when there was a knock on the door. He froze, fork halfway to his mouth. I rose, opened the door, and there she was again. Vanessa. Her lipstick darker this time, her heels higher, her expression harder. She brushed past me without a word and dropped herself into the chair across from him. You're out of time, she said coldly. He swallowed hard. Vanessa, no more excuses. Her voice was like a whip. You promised me the world. You told me she wouldn't matter. And now? Now I see you're nothing but a liar. His face drained of color. Please, not here, but she was done. She pulled her phone from her purse, tapping the screen with perfectly manicured nails. Maybe the world should know who you really are, she hissed. Maybe I should make it public. The blood drained from his face completely, and I leaned back in my chair, smiling faintly, because at long last, the mistress had become my weapon. Vanessa's threat hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Maybe the world should know who you really are. My husband's fork clattered onto his plate, his face pale as parchment. His hands trembled, something I'd never seen before. The man who once strutted through boardrooms and courtrooms with unshakable arrogance was reduced to begging with his eyes. "Vanessa," he said hoarsely, leaning forward. "You don't mean that. You wouldn't." Her lips curved into a smirk. "Try me." For days after that, the house became a pressure cooker. Vanessa was relentless, her calls and texts a constant barrage. "You lied to me. You promised me money, and I got nothing. If you don't fix this, I swear I'll burn you to the ground." I overheard his frantic whispers behind closed doors, heard the desperation in his voice as he begged her to be patient. Offered her gifts, trips, even cash from his personal accounts. But none of it satisfied her, and why would it? She hadn't signed up for scraps. She wanted the empire. She wanted my empire. The beauty of it was that I didn't need to lift a finger. Vanessa was already doing my work for me, chipping away at his sanity piece by piece. All I had to do was occasionally fan the flames. One evening, while he was on yet another hushed phone call, I accidentally left a folder on the kitchen counter, an old set of property records and trust documents, carefully arranged so Vanessa's name might come up in conversation later. Sure enough, the next day, she texted him, "So she's the one who moved everything? She's the reason you're broke?" His response came quickly, desperately, "Yes. She's behind it. But I'll fix it. I promise." I smiled when I saw his frustration boil over at dinner. His hand slamming onto the table hard enough to rattle the wine glasses. "This is all your fault," he snarled at me, forgetting to hide the venom in his voice. "You're ruining my life." I sipped my wine calmly. "Funny. I thought you did that yourself." Vanessa's patience snapped a few days later. She showed up again uninvited, furious, and this time, drunk. Her perfume hit me before she even stumbled through the doorway, her words slurred but sharp. "You bastard," she spat at him. "You think you can play me? You think I don't see what you're doing?" He tried to calm her, his hands outstretched, but she shoved him back so hard he staggered. "You promised me 700 million. She screamed, her voice echoing through the hall. "You said she'd be out of the picture. But she's still here. And you," she jabbed a finger at him. "You're a liar. A pathetic liar." I stood in the corner, arms crossed, watching with a calm smile, and then Vanessa turned to me, her eyes, bloodshot but sharp, locked on mine. "You," she said, pointing at me. "You're the smart one. You know what he is." I tilted my head, curious. "And what do you think he is?" "A con," she spat. "A fraud. He used me. Just like he used you." For a moment, there was a flicker of something unexpected in her gaze. Not hostility. Not rivalry. But recognition. We weren't enemies. We were survivors of the same predator. That night, after Vanessa stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frames rattled, my husband collapsed onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. "She's going to ruin me," he muttered. "She's going to destroy everything." I studied him quietly. "The once proud man, reduced to a trembling wreck, maybe," I said softly. "Or maybe you already destroyed yourself." He looked up at me, his eyes hollow. "You don't understand." But I did. Oh, I understood perfectly, because the fire Vanessa had lit, it was spreading fast. And soon, it would consume him completely. The true shock came 2 days later. I was in the garden, trimming roses, when my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I wiped my hands, opened it and froze. It was from Vanessa. "We need to talk. Woman to woman. He lied to both of us. Meet me. Alone." My breath caught. The mistress wanted an alliance. And for the first time, I realized this war was about to take a turn even I hadn't anticipated. I stared at the message on my phone for a long time. We need to talk. Woman to woman. He lied to both of us. Meet me. Alone. It was risky. Dangerous, even. Vanessa was unpredictable, emotional, volatile, easily manipulated. But she was also a key piece on this chessboard, and I couldn't afford to ignore her invitation, so I typed back, simply, where? We met in a small cafe downtown, the kind of place where no one would recognize either of us. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in the corner booth with oversized sunglasses and a too-tight dress that screamed of someone trying to be noticed while hiding at the same time. When she saw me, she slid off her glasses and gestured for me to sit. Thanks for coming, she said, her voice sharp but laced with something softer desperation. I sat across from her, folding my hands on the table. You wanted to talk. So talk. For a moment, she just stared at me. Then she laughed bitterly, shaking her head. He told me you were cold, she said. That you didn't care about him. That you only cared about money. That's why he came to me, because I made him feel alive. I raised a brow. Did you believe that? Her smile faltered. At first. He's convincing. You know that better than anyone. Yes. I did. I had once fallen for the same act. The charming words. The promises, the intensity that felt like devotion but was really possession. What did he promise you? I asked evenly, her jaw tightened. That once he divorced you, the money would be his. Ours. That we'd start fresh. That he'd take care of me. He even told me we'd get married. I let out a small, humorless laugh. Married? He doesn't even understand the meaning of the word. Vanessa leaned forward, her eyes burning with anger. He ruined my life. I left everything for him. My job, my apartment, my friends. I believed him. And now? Now I'm nothing but his dirty secret. A woman he hides in shadows while he pretends to still love you. There it was. Her pain. Her rage, and in it, I saw an opportunity. He lied to you, I said softly. But he lied to me. Too. 4 years. Every word that came out of his mouth was designed to manipulate, to control. You and I were not so different, Vanessa. We're both victims of the same man. She hesitated, then whispered, victims. The word hung heavy in the air. For the next hour, we traded stories. She told me about the trips he'd promised her, the way he spoke about me behind my back, the cruel little jokes he made at my expense when they were together. I told her about the email I'd found, the divorce strategy, the way he planned to strip me of everything I owned. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. The same lies, the same tactics, recycled for each of us. By the time our coffee cups were empty, Vanessa's hands were shaking with fury. I hate him, she said flatly. I hate him for what he did to me. For what he did to you. He thinks he can use people and just walk away. I studied her carefully. Then maybe it's time someone teaches him otherwise. Her eyes snapped to mine, sharp and curious. What are you saying? I'm saying, I replied, leaning forward, that together, we're stronger than he ever imagined. He's counting on us being enemies. But if we aren't? I let the words trail off, watching her process them. For a long time, she was silent. Then she smirked, the kind of smirk that carried more malice than humor. You're not what I expected, she admitted. He painted you as this ice queen, untouchable. But you're sharper. Dangerous. Survival makes you dangerous, I said. She leaned back, crossing her arms. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's time he learns what it feels like to be betrayed. And just like that, the seeds of an alliance were planted, but as I rose to leave, Vanessa stopped me. There's something you should know, she said quietly, her voice losing its edge. I turned, my brow furrowed. What? She looked around, as if afraid someone might overhear, then leaned in. You're not the only woman he's been lying to. The words hit like a slap. What do you mean? I asked, my voice low. She bit her lip, hesitating. Then she whispered, there's someone else. Another woman. And this time, it's not about love. It's about business. Vanessa's words echoed in my head long after I left the cafe. There's someone else. Another woman. And this time, it's not about love. It's about business. For days, I couldn't shake it. My husband's infidelity no longer surprised me. Lust was his addiction. Lies were his currency. But this was different. If he'd entangled himself with another woman for money, then everything I'd done to protect my empire might not have been enough. I began my investigation the way I always did, quietly, methodically. A few discreet calls to contacts who still owed me favors. A few late nights poring over financial records and corporate filings, and then there it was, a name, Claudia Moreau, the CEO of a rising investment firm, sleek, polished, and utterly ruthless. She had a reputation for swallowing smaller companies whole, leaving their owners penniless while she grew richer. And she was meeting with my husband. Frequently, one evening, while he claimed to be working late, I tailed him. It wasn't hard, his arrogance made him sloppy. He never imagined I'd bother. I watched from across the street as he entered a luxurious penthouse hotel. Minutes later, Claudia herself arrived, tall, elegant, dressed in a power suit that cost more than most people's cars. She didn't look like a mistress. She looked like a predator, and when she greeted him with a kiss not on the cheek, but on the mouth, I felt a chill run down my spine. This wasn't about romance. This was about alliance. That night, when he returned home, I pretended to be asleep. He slipped into bed, smelling faintly of Claudia's expensive perfume, unaware that I already knew everything. But inside me, something shifted. Vanessa had been chaos, emotional, reckless, destructive. Claudia was calculation, strategy. A woman who knew how to play the game as well as I did, and that made her dangerous. I met Vanessa again 2 days later, this time in a hotel lounge far from prying eyes. She was sipping wine, tapping her manicured nails against the glass. So? She asked. Did you find her? Yes, I said grimly. Claudia Moreau. Vanessa smirked bitterly. Figures. He told me she was just a client. Said she needed him for consulting? I let out a dry laugh. He's moving assets through her firm. She's his escape plan. If the divorce fails, if you and I don't destroy him first, he's betting everything on her. Vanessa's face twisted with fury. So I was never the future. Just the plaything. The pain in her voice was raw, but beneath it burned rage. And rage was useful. I leaned in. Listen carefully. Claudia isn't like us. She doesn't want his love or his promises. She wants power. And she'll take him down with her if it benefits her. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. Then maybe we should take her down first. The suggestion hung in the air, heavy and dangerous. That night, alone in my study, I poured myself a glass of wine and stared at the glowing city skyline. 3 women. 1 man, 1 betrayed wife, 1 scorned mistress, 1 ruthless partner. And my husband caught between them all, believing he could control the storm he'd created. But storms have a way of swallowing even the strongest men whole. I was deep in thought when my phone buzzed. An email, from an anonymous sender. Subject, you don't know the whole story. My pulse quickened as I clicked it open. Attached was a single photograph, my husband. Sitting at a candlelit dinner. Not with Vanessa. Not even with Claudia, but with someone else entirely, a 4th woman. The photograph burned in my mind long after I closed the email. My husband sat at a candlelit table, leaning in close, his hand resting over another woman's. She wasn't Vanessa. She wasn't Claudia. She was someone I didn't recognize at all, young. Elegant. The kind of polished beauty money couldn't fully buy. And the way he looked at her like she was his new salvation sent a chill through me. The next morning, I printed the photo and slid it across the table to Vanessa when we met again. Her reaction was explosive. Another one? she shrieked, drawing stares from nearby diners. How many does he need? Keep your voice down, I hissed. She slammed her hand against the table, tears of rage brimming in her eyes. Do you know what this means? I was never even second place. I was third. Maybe fourth. A joke. I watched her spiral, part of me almost pitying her. She had believed his lies, sacrificed her life for him, only to discover she was just another name on his list of conquests, but I couldn't afford pity. Not now. I needed answers. For days, I dug into the photograph, tracing the location first. The restaurant was exclusive, private, one of those places where only the elite could secure a table. That meant she wasn't just anyone. Finally, after a string of favors and a little pressure applied in the right places, I had a name: Elena Ramirez, journalist. Investigative reporter for one of the biggest media outlets in the country. The irony nearly made me laugh out loud. Of all people to seduce. He'd chosen someone who built her career exposing powerful men. When I told Vanessa, she blinked in shock. A reporter? He's insane. Yes, I said slowly. Or arrogant enough to think he could charm her into protecting him. Vanessa leaned back, shaking her head. So what's his angle? Money? Influence? Or is he just stupid enough to think she actually loves him? Does it matter? I replied. Either way, she's a ticking time bomb. If she finds out about you, about Claudia, about me, she won't just ruin him. She'll bury him. For the first time, Vanessa smiled. A cold, dangerous smile. Then maybe we should help her. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced with possibilities. Elena was more than just another affair he was leverage. If I approached her carefully, revealed the truth, she could become my most powerful ally, but if my husband suspected I knew, he'd do everything in his power to silence both of us, so I waited. Watched, and then, one evening, my husband came home late, his shirt rumpled, his tie askew. He didn't smell of Claudia's perfume or Vanessa's cheap body spray. This time, he smelled of something unfamiliar. Expensive. Exotic, Elena's scent. I pretended to be asleep as he slipped into bed, his phone buzzing with a message he quickly silenced. I didn't move. Didn't breathe, but inside, I smiled, because he had no idea that every step deeper into Elena's world brought him closer to his own destruction. 2 days later, another anonymous email arrived. This time, no photo. Just 4 words: he's playing with fire. And for the first time, I wondered, was Elena already on to him? The message haunted me: he's playing with fire. And I knew what it meant. Elena Ramirez wasn't just another woman blinded by his charm. She was watching him. Studying him. Maybe even setting the stage for something bigger. I had to see her. Not through photographs. Not through whispered rumors. Face to face, I sent her a note, discreet, handwritten, left with the maitre d' at the same restaurant where the photo had been taken. Just a time, a place, and a signature: the wife. If she was curious enough, she'd come, and she did. Elena arrived precisely on time. She walked with quiet confidence, her dark hair pulled into a sleek knot, her tailored coat swinging elegantly at her sides. She didn't look nervous. She looked like a woman who had seen too much of the world to be shaken by a clandestine meeting. When she reached my table, she didn't sit immediately. She studied me first, her sharp eyes cutting through silence like a blade. "You're braver than I expected," she said finally, sliding into the chair opposite me. Most wives pretend not to know. Most wives don't have $700 million to protect, I replied coolly, her lips curved into the faintest smile. Fair point. For a few moments, we danced around each other with small talk. Coffee orders, polite observations. But the air was thick with unspoken truths. Finally, Elena leaned forward. So why am I here? I met her gaze steadily. Because I know about you. And you know about him. Something flickered in her eyes, surprise, quickly masked. You think I'm just another affair, she said softly. But that's not what this is. I tilted my head. Then what is it? She sat back, her expression unreadable. An investigation. The word hit me like a spark to dry tinder. Investigation? I repeated, yes. She folded her hands neatly on the table. Your husband approached me. Tried to charm me. Flatter me, reel me into his little web. But I've been doing this too long. I recognized the type immediately. Men who think they're untouchable. Men who build empires on lies. Men who always leave a trail. My pulse quickened. And what exactly are you looking for? She smiled faintly. Evidence. Proof of fraud. Of embezzlement. Of laundering. Things that would end not just his marriage, but his career. His freedom. I inhaled sharply, the weight of her words sinking in. This wasn't just personal anymore. It was criminal. Vanessa's voice echoed in my memory from our last conversation. Then maybe we should help her. And suddenly, I realized just how right she had been. You already have something, don't you? I asked. Elena's eyes sparkled with quiet triumph. Enough to ruin him. But not enough to bury him yet. That's why I entertained his advances. Why I let him think he was winning me over. The longer he talks, the more careless he becomes. A rush of emotion surged through me: relief, vindication, and something darker. Satisfaction. He wasn't just betraying me anymore. He was walking straight into his own execution. You should know, I said carefully, there are other women. Vanessa. Claudia. He's juggling all of us like pieces on a chessboard. Elena's brows rose slightly. Claudia Moreau? That explains the offshore transfers. I froze. You've seen them? Of course. She leaned forward again, lowering her voice. Your husband isn't just planning to leave you. He's planning to disappear with every dollar he can funnel out of reach. Claudia is his partner in crime. Vanessa is his distraction. And you. She studied me closely. You're the obstacle. Her words should have stung. But instead, they ignited something inside me. Then maybe it's time to stop being the obstacle, I murmured. And become the executioner. For the first time, Elena's smile widened. Not warm. Not friendly. But approving. You're not like the others, she said. You're not a victim. You're a strategist. I had to be, I replied. Living with him. Elena sat back, her eyes glittering. Good. Because you should know I already have enough for a story. Enough to start a firestorm. I could publish tomorrow. My breath caught. Then why haven't you? She held my gaze steadily. Because I want more than a scandal. I want him destroyed. Completely. When I go public, I want there to be no escape for him. No second chances. No recovery. The intensity in her voice sent a shiver down my spine, and in that moment, I realized Elena Ramirez wasn't just another piece in this game. She was the queen, and my husband had just handed her the checkmate. Vanessa was pacing when I entered the hotel suite we'd agreed to use as our meeting point. Her hair was a tangled mess, her eyes red from lack of sleep, but her energy was electric like a storm barely contained. Well? She demanded. Did you meet her? Yes, I said, closing the door softly behind me. I met Elena. Vanessa spun to face me, her expression sharp with curiosity and suspicion. And she's not what he thinks she is. Her brows furrowed. What do you mean? She's not his lover, I said evenly. She's his investigator. Vanessa blinked. Once. Twice. Then she burst out laughing, a harsh, bitter sound. You're kidding. I'm not. She sank onto the couch, shaking her head in disbelief. So the mighty charmer finally met a woman he couldn't control. And she's been playing him all along. For a moment, Vanessa was quiet. Then her laughter turned into something darker. I almost admire her. Almost. But God, I hate that he gave her what he promised me. attention, effort. All those whispered lies he wasted on me. He should have known better than to think he could outsmart a woman like that. Her bitterness was raw, but beneath it, I caught the glimmer of something else. Respect, she has proof, I said, cutting through Vanessa's spiraling emotions. Financial records. Offshore accounts. Fraud. Enough to end him. Vanessa's head snapped up. So what are we waiting for? Let her publish it. I shook my head. She wants to wait. She wants him destroyed beyond repair. Not just a scandal. A total collapse. Vanessa's lips curved into a cold smile. I like her already. We sat in silence for a while, the reality of it sinking in. 3 women. All betrayed. All hurt. And all, in their own way, hungry for his downfall. For the first time, I said it out loud, we're not enemies anymore. Vanessa's eyes softened, just slightly. No. We're not. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't friendship. But it was an understanding, and in this game, understanding was power. Meanwhile, my husband was unraveling. I could see it in the way he stomped through the house at night, slamming doors, barking at assistants on the phone. Deals that once seemed effortless were slipping through his fingers. Partners were withdrawing. Claudia's name was whispered with growing suspicion in financial circles. He was trying to hold everything together, but the seams were splitting faster than he could stitch them, and he knew though he couldn't prove that I was behind it. One evening, I walked into the study to find him hunched over his desk, his tie loosened, his hair disheveled. Papers were scattered everywhere, half-empty glasses of whiskey crowding the table. When he looked up, his eyes were wild. This is your doing, he spat. Don't deny it. I raised an eyebrow. What exactly is my doing? You've poisoned them all against me. My partners. My investors. Even Vanessa, his voice cracked on her name. You think I don't know you're working with her? I said nothing. Silence was more powerful than denial, his face twisted with rage. You'll regret this. I swear, you'll regret this. That night, long after he had stormed off, my phone buzzed with a message from Elena. He's getting desperate. Be careful. Desperate men make dangerous choices. I didn't reply. I just stared at the screen, feeling the truth settle like a stone in my chest, because I knew Elena was right, and the very next day, he proved it. Vanessa didn't show up for our meeting. Instead, I got a call. Her voice was shaky, broken. He found me, she whispered. He came to my apartment. He threatened me. Said if I didn't shut up, he'd make me disappear. I froze. My grip tightened on the phone. The game had just turned lethal. Vanessa's voice trembled through the phone, raw with panic. He came to my apartment, she whispered. He was furious. Said I was ruining everything. He grabbed me, shoved me against the wall. He said if I didn't shut my mouth, if I didn't disappear, no one would ever find me. I felt my stomach knot. For all his arrogance, I had always thought my husband a coward at heart. But desperation changes men. Are you safe now? I asked. I left, she said. I packed a bag and ran. But he knows where I live. He knows everything. Her breath hitched. I don't know what to do. An hour later, we met in the hotel suite again. Vanessa sat curled up on the couch. Her knees pulled to her chest, eyes swollen from crying. Elena stood near the window, her sharp gaze fixed on the street below as though expecting him to storm in at any second. He's escalating, Elena said flatly. This is what happens when liars lose their grip. They lash out. Vanessa let out a bitter laugh, half hysteria, half despair. You think? He looked me in the eye and said I was nothing. That he could erase me. And the worst part? Her voice cracked. I believed him. No, I said firmly, sitting beside her. You don't believe him. Not anymore. He doesn't have that power over you. She looked at me with wide, tearful eyes. Then what do we do? Elena turned from the window. Her expression hard. We let him hang himself. I frowned. Explain. He's unraveling. His money's slipping, his partners are questioning him, his women are turning against him. The more desperate he gets, the more reckless he becomes. If we can capture that, record it, document it, we'll have everything we need. Not just for a story. For prosecution. Vanessa shivered. You want me to bait him? Yes, Elena said simply. I studied Vanessa carefully. She was trembling, fragile, but beneath the fear there was fire. You've already risked everything for him, I said softly. Now it's time to risk something for yourself. For your freedom. For a long moment, Vanessa said nothing. Then she exhaled shakily and nodded. Fine. I'll do it. But if he tries to touch me again, he won't, I promised. Because this time, we'll be ready. The plan was simple. Vanessa would call him. Tell him she wanted to talk. Pretend to be scared. Pretend to be repentant. Lure him into thinking he still had control. Meanwhile, Elena would set up hidden cameras and microphones in the suite. I would stay close, ready to intervene if things spiraled out of control. It was dangerous. Reckless, even. But sometimes the only way to catch a predator is to let him believe he's still hunting. The night of the trap, Vanessa's hand shook as she dialed his number. Baby? She said, her voice trembling on cue. I'm sorry. I panicked. I shouldn't have said those things. Can you come? Please? I need you. His response was immediate. A smug, almost triumphant tone I could hear even through the speaker. I knew you'd come to your senses, he said. Stay where you are. I'm on my way. Vanessa hung up, her face pale. He bought it. Of course he did, Elena muttered. Men like him always believe the lie they want to hear. An hour later, we heard his footsteps in the hall. Heavy. Confident, Vanessa sat on the couch, feigning nervousness. I hid in the adjoining room. Elena crouched near the camera controls, her eyes sharp with anticipation. The door opened, and there he was, smiling. Arrogant. Completely unaware he was stepping into his own execution. Well, he drawled, closing the door behind him. I knew you couldn't stay mad at me. Vanessa's voice shook. I missed you. He chuckled, crossing the room to her. Of course you did. You need me. You always will. And then his hand closed around her chin, tilting her face up roughly. But don't ever threaten me again. Do you understand? The cameras caught every word. Every gesture. Every ounce of venom in his voice. It was perfect, until he said something none of us expected. You think you're clever, he whispered to Vanessa. But I already know what you and she are up to. You're not the only ones playing this game. My blood ran cold, he knew. His voice was calm, too calm, and that was what chilled me most. You think you're clever, he murmured, his fingers still gripping Vanessa's chin. But I already know what you and she are up to. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Vanessa's eyes went wide, her breath coming in shallow gasps. For a moment, I feared she would shatter our plan with a scream or a confession, but I stayed hidden in the adjoining room, forcing myself to remain still. Elena's hand hovered over the recorder, her jaw tight. What do you mean? Vanessa stammered. He chuckled darkly. Please. I've lived with her for years. I know when she's plotting. The sudden calm, the little smiles, the way she acts like she's already won. And you, his grip tightened, making Vanessa flinch. You were never subtle. Too emotional. Too easy to read. He released her suddenly, pacing the room with a predator's restlessness. But it doesn't matter. Because I've already taken precautions. Vanessa swallowed hard. Precautions? He turned, his smile sharp as a knife. Everything you think you've stolen from me? I've duplicated. Every document. Every account. Every transfer. Backed up and hidden where you'll never find them. If I go down, she goes down too. My stomach clenched. He wasn't bluffing. He had always been meticulous, obsessive about keeping leverage. It made sense he would have created a safety net. Vanessa shook her head, her voice trembling. You're lying. Am I? He sneered. Ask her. My pulse quickened. For a moment, I thought he might open the door to the adjoining room, drag me out into the light. But instead, he leaned closer to Vanessa, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. She thinks she's the spider. But really, she's just another fly in my web. Elena shot me a look from her hiding place, her eyes blazing with warning. Don't move. Don't give him what he wants. I stayed still, my nails biting into my palms as I fought the urge to intervene. Vanessa played her part, though barely. You're paranoid, she said shakily. You're imagining things. But he only laughed. Am I? Or did you really think I hadn't noticed the little meetings, the sudden disappearances, the whispers? You and her together? Pathetic. He straightened, his smile turning cold. But here's the thing, I don't even care. Because I've already set my plan in motion. Vanessa blinked. What plan? His eyes gleamed. Claudia. The name sliced through the air like a blade. I've moved everything into her control, he said smugly. The accounts, the properties, the shell corporations. She holds it all. And guess what? She's loyal to me. Not you. Not the wife. Me. Vanessa's face crumpled. You gave her everything? Not gave, he corrected. Entrusted. And when the time is right, she'll move it back. And you two will be left with nothing but ashes. I felt my chest tighten. He had just admitted it. Claudia wasn't just a fling, she was his fortress. His counterstrike, but before I could process, his voice dropped even lower, venom dripping from each word. And as for Elena. My blood froze. He knew. Vanessa tried to mask her confusion. Elena? Who's Elena? He smirked. Oh, please. You don't think I realized a reporter suddenly taking interest in me was coincidence? Do you? She's been sniffing around. Asking questions. Pretending to fall for my charm. But I've dealt with vultures before. He leaned back, his confidence radiating like poison. What she doesn't know is I have something on her too. Something that will ruin her career if she even thinks of publishing. From my vantage point, I saw Elena's hands tighten on the recorder, her face pale but furious. He knew about her, and he had leverage. The trap we thought we'd set had just snapped back on us, and as he stood there, smug and certain of his victory, I realized the next move wasn't ours to plan, it was his. After he left, the silence in the suite was suffocating. Vanessa was shaking, her face ghost white, and Elena was pacing like a caged predator, her fists clenched so tightly her knuckles were bone. He knows, Vanessa whispered. He knows everything. About you, about her, about everything. No, Elena said sharply. He thinks he knows. That's not the same. But her voice wasn't as steady as her words. I studied her closely. What does he have on you? Elena froze, her eyes flicked to me, then away, as if weighing whether to lie. But finally, she exhaled, shoulders sagging. Before I was a journalist, I wasn't exactly clean. Vanessa blinked. What does that mean? It means I worked for people I shouldn't have. Took money for stories I knew were rigged. Dug up dirt that destroyed lives not because it was true, but because it paid well. It was years ago, but if he's dug that up. If he's got proof. She trailed off, her jaw tight. Vanessa's mouth dropped open. So you're saying you're dirty too? Elena's eyes flashed. I'm saying I'm human. And that if he goes public with what he's found, I lose everything. My reputation. My career. My credibility. I leaned forward. And if we stop now, what do you lose? Elena met my gaze, her expression bleak. My chance to finish him. The room went quiet, then, shockingly, Vanessa was the one who broke it. Then we finish him anyway, she said. We both turned to her. She was trembling, yes, but there was a fire in her eyes I hadn't seen before. I don't care if he ruins me. I don't care if the whole world laughs at me for being the fool who believed him. All I care about is making sure he burns. He threatened me. He said he could erase me. I want to be the one holding the match when he turns to ash. Her voice cracked, but her conviction didn't. For once, Vanessa wasn't the naive lover. She was a woman scorned and dangerous. Elena studied her for a long moment, then finally nodded. Then we hit where it hurts most. Claudia, I said, her name hung in the air like smoke. She holds the assets now, Elena confirmed. If we can turn her, make her doubt him, even pry loose one thread, we could unravel the whole tapestry. Vanessa frowned. And how exactly do you turn the woman who thinks she's his queen? I smiled coldly. By showing her she's just another pawn. It wasn't easy to reach Claudia. She had built walls thicker than his guards. Assistants, layers of secrecy. But money talks. And fear whispers louder. With a little maneuvering, Elena arranged a discreet meeting, not in a grand office. Not in a crowded restaurant. But in a quiet, dimly lit chapel on the edge of town, fitting, I thought, as we waited in the pews. Confessions always seemed to spill easier under stained glass. When Claudia arrived, she was every bit as formidable as I remembered. Tall, elegant, her hair pulled into a severe bun, her tailored suit immaculate. She looked at us with cool disdain, as though we were nuisances beneath her notice. Well, she said, her voice sharp. This is unexpected. Not as unexpected as what he's done to you, I replied, her eyes narrowed. And what exactly has he done to me? Elena leaned forward, her tone measured. He's made you his shield. His scapegoat. Everything's in your name now, isn't it? The accounts. The corporations. The assets. Do you really think that's because he trusts you? Claudia's lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't answer. Vanessa, surprisingly, was the one who struck the final blow. He told us, she said softly. He said when the time was right, you'd move everything back to him. That's all you are to him. A placeholder. Nothing more. For the first time, Claudia's composure cracked. Just slightly, but enough. She looked at each of us in turn, her gaze icy. And you think I'd betray him? For you? No, I said. Not for us. For yourself. Because when the fall comes and you'll be the one left holding the bag. The fraud. The embezzlement. The trail leads to your name, not his. He's protected himself. He sacrificed you. The silence was thick. Finally, Claudia spoke, her voice low but steady. You think you're the first to warn me? You think I don't know the game he's playing? Her eyes gleamed with something almost like amusement, and then she dropped the bomb. I've been playing him longer than all of you combined. For a moment, none of us spoke. The echo of Claudia's words lingered in the chapel like a ghost. I've been playing him longer than all of you combined. Elena leaned forward, her sharp eyes narrowing. What exactly does that mean? Claudia's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. It means I'm not the fool you all think I am. Do you really believe I'd tie my future to a man like him without safeguards? Please. I built my empire long before he came along. He needed me more than I ever needed him. Vanessa blinked, visibly thrown. So. You're saying you knew? About all of us? About what he was doing? Claudia's gaze flicked to her with disdain. Of course I knew. He never hid it well. But affairs don't concern me. Power does. Her words were like ice, slicing through Vanessa's fragile pride. I studied her carefully. Then why meet us at all? If you're so untouchable, why entertain our little rebellion? Claudia's smile sharpened. Because his downfall is inevitable. And I intend to make sure when he falls, I rise higher. If you want to help me do that, we might find ourselves aligned. Elena crossed her arms. Aligned? That sounds dangerously close to blackmail. Claudia chuckled, low and amused. Call it whatever you like. I call it strategy. She leaned closer, her perfume sharp and intoxicating. You see, while he was busy hiding assets in my name, I was busy creating duplicates of my own. Documents. Recordings. Signed authorizations. If the authorities come knocking, I can show them everything and point the finger directly at him. Vanessa gasped. You mean you can destroy him? Claudia tilted her head, her smile cool. I mean, I already destroyed him. He just doesn't know it yet. The weight of her words sank in. She wasn't a pawn. She wasn't even a queen waiting to be sacrificed. She was the other player at the table, moving pieces while he thought the board was his alone, but that made her dangerous. Why tell us this? I asked cautiously. Why not finish him yourself? Her eyes gleamed. Because while I can ruin him financially, you three can ruin him publicly. And public ruin is permanent. Elena's eyes narrowed. And what's your price? At that, Claudia's smile widened. The predator revealing her teeth. My price, she said softly, is simple. When this is over, every remaining asset, every dollar, every property, every company you walk away. All of it belongs to me. Vanessa choked. What? That's insane. Claudia's gaze flicked to her, unimpressed. Is it? You want revenge. She wants freedom. Elena wants her story. None of you want to build empires. That's my game. And if you want my help, you'll leave me the spoils. The silence was heavy. I could feel Vanessa trembling beside me, fury radiating off her. Elena's jaw was tight, her eyes calculating. And me? I was torn, because Claudia was right. I didn't care about rebuilding an empire. I cared about ending his. But could I stomach giving her everything he had stolen from me? Claudia must have read the conflict on my face, because her smile softened just slightly. Think carefully. You can win revenge. Or you can win riches. Not both. Choose. And with that, she stood, the sound of her heels echoing through the chapel as she walked away, leaving us drowning in the ultimatum she'd dropped. Vanessa exploded the second she was gone. We can't trust her. She's just as bad as he is. Worse, maybe. She'll use us and then bury us the second we're no longer useful. Elena sighed, rubbing her temples. She's dangerous, yes. But she's also right. Without her, it'll take years to dismantle him. With her, it could happen in weeks. I sat in silence, Claudia's words echoing in my head. Revenge or riches? Not both. For the first time, I realized the final battle wouldn't just be against him, it would be against her too. The chapel's silence followed us long after Claudia's footsteps faded. Vanessa was the first to break. She stormed across the room, her voice sharp and trembling. We can't give her everything. Are you insane? She's just him in heels. You think she won't gut us the second we're out of the way? Elena leaned against a pew, her expression taut but calm. She's dangerous, yes. But we'd be fools not to recognize the opportunity. Claudia has what we need: proof, leverage, access. Without her, we're stuck playing cat and mouse with a man who still has claws. Vanessa whirled on her. So what, we just roll over? Hand her the empire like obedient little dogs? No. I won't do it. I sat quietly, listening, letting their voices crash against each other like waves against stone. Vanessa's outrage, Elena's pragmatism. Both right, both wrong. Finally, I spoke. We don't have to choose now. Let's play along. Make Claudia think she's won. And when the time comes. Vanessa blinked at me. When the time comes, what? I smiled, cold and thin. We'll see who's really holding the match. That night, while Vanessa paced and Elena scribbled notes of strategy, I opened my laptop and began digging. Not into my husband's accounts, I'd already stripped those bare, but into Claudia's, she was meticulous, but not invincible. Shell corporations, offshore trusts, blind investments. Layers upon layers of misdirection. But I knew her weakness now: trust. He thought he had hers. But really, she trusted only herself. Which meant somewhere, hidden beneath the fortress of numbers, there would be a single vulnerable thread. And if I found it, I could unravel her just as easily as him. This wasn't about money anymore, it was about control. The next few days blurred into long hours of planning. Vanessa simmered with fury, snapping at both of us, her fear bubbling just beneath the surface. Elena, meanwhile, grew more secretive, her eyes shadowed, as though weighing whether Claudia's threat to her career was heavier than her loyalty to us. And me? I played my part. The calm strategist. The glue holding us together. But inside, I was sharpening my knives, because I knew a truth neither of them wanted to face: alliances built on revenge don't last. Eventually, they all turn. Our uneasy alliance was tested sooner than expected. On the fourth night, Elena burst into the suite, her face pale, her phone clutched tight. "He's moving," she said breathlessly. Vanessa straightened. "What do you mean, moving?" Elena dropped the phone on the table. "I got a tip from one of my sources. He's liquidating. Accounts, properties, even cars. Fast. He's pulling out before we can pin him down." Vanessa cursed under her breath. He knows. He knows Claudia's not as loyal as she pretends." "No," I said slowly, my pulse quickening. "This isn't panic. This is strategy. He's preparing for something." Elena's eyes met mine, sharp with dread. A counterstrike. The realization settled over us like a storm cloud. If he was moving that fast, it meant he wasn't waiting to be cornered. He was going to strike first. Vanessa clutched her arms around herself, her voice trembling. "What if he comes after us?" "He already did," Elena said grimly. "With you. Next time, it'll be worse." I looked between them, my mind racing. Claudia thought she was in control. He thought he was still 2 steps ahead. And us? We were caught in the middle of a war with no rules, unless we rewrote them. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, Vanessa's restless movements audible in the next room, Elena's soft clicks on her laptop steady like a metronome, and I made a decision: I wouldn't just destroy him. I wouldn't just outplay Claudia. I would end this game entirely on my terms. But first, I had to let them both believe they were winning. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a message. No name. No number. Just words: "I know what you're planning. Stop, or I'll bury you." I stared at the screen, my blood running cold. He wasn't just liquidating, he was watching. The message burned in my mind long after I deleted it. "I know what you're planning. Stop, or I'll bury you." I didn't tell Vanessa. I didn't tell Elena. Not yet. Fear was a poison, and I couldn't afford either of them breaking when the board was finally tilting our way, but he was already moving. And when he struck, he chose his target with precision. Vanessa. It started with whispers online. Anonymous posts on forums, screenshots of texts, blurred photos. At first, they seemed random, impossible to trace. But then the pieces fit together: late-night messages between her and him. Her desperate pleas. Her declarations of love. Pictures of them together, her in lingerie, him half-dressed, smug and grinning. Within hours, the whispers turned into a storm. By the next morning, Vanessa's name was trending. The comments were brutal: "Pathetic mistress thinks she mattered. Gold digger crying wolf. If she got dumped, maybe she should look in the mirror." Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing, and when I walked into the suite, I found her curled on the floor, sobbing, her makeup smeared, her hands shaking as she scrolled through the endless avalanche of humiliation. "He ruined me," she choked. "Completely ruined me. Everyone thinks I'm a joke. My job, my family, my friends, they'll all see this. I can't come back from this. I can't." Her words broke into ragged sobs. Elena crouched beside her, trying to steady her. "Listen to me. This isn't the end. This is him lashing out. He wants you broken, because if you're broken, you're no threat. Vanessa shook her head violently. No, you don't get it. He was my whole world. And now the world knows. I was stupid enough to believe him, stupid enough to fall for his lies, and now she broke again, covering her face with trembling hands. I stepped forward then, my voice low but sharp. Stop. Vanessa looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. You are not broken, I said. You are not ruined. Do you hear me? This is exactly what he wants, to make you feel small, pathetic, powerless. But you're not. You're proof. Proof of who he is. Proof of what he does. And you can either let him bury you under his lies, or you can stand and bury him under the truth. Her breath hitched, her gaze searching mine. You think I don't know what it feels like to be humiliated? To be lied to? To be treated like a possession, a fool, a disposable toy? I do. We all do. But the difference between us and him is this: he thinks shame is a weapon. We're going to turn it into fire. Vanessa's lips trembled. But everyone hates me. I reached for her hand, gripping it tightly. Then let them. Let them hate. Because when this is over, when he's exposed for what he truly is, they won't remember you as the mistress who cried. They'll remember you as the woman who helped bring him down. For the first time in hours, she met my gaze with something steadier than despair. You really think we can win? She whispered. I nodded. I don't just think. I know. Elena exhaled, relief flickering in her eyes. Vanessa wasn't whole, not yet, but she was standing again. And that was enough. But just as we steadied her, another storm broke. Elena's phone buzzed, a message flashing across the screen. Her face paled as she read it. What is it? I asked. She looked at me, her voice tight. He's gone. Vanessa blinked. Gone? What do you mean, gone? Elena swallowed. He's pulled the accounts, emptied the properties, disappeared from every traceable location. No flights, no cars, no sightings. He's not hiding, he's vanished. The words sank in like ice. He wasn't just countering, he was disappearing, and men like him didn't vanish without a plan. He had vanished. No cars. No flights. No credit card swipes or hotel check-ins. One day, his name was everywhere in contracts, investments, whispers of new ventures, and the next, he was a ghost, and ghosts were dangerous. Elena paced the suite, phone glued to her ear, her tone clipped and sharp as she barked orders at her sources. Check the ports. Private charters. Offshore banks. I don't care if you have to bribe someone in customs, I need his trail. Vanessa sat slumped in a chair, her face still raw from tears, her phone buzzing endlessly with cruel messages she refused to read. He's laughing at us, she muttered bitterly. Somewhere out there, drinking champagne, watching us run in circles. I sat at the desk, my laptop glowing in the dim light, scrolling through transaction logs, cross-checking Shell Corporation's I already knew. My husband was good at hiding, but no one moved money without leaving a trace, not even him. It was nearly midnight when Elena slammed her phone shut with a curse. Nothing. Every contact I have says he's off-grid. Completely. I didn't look up from the screen. Not completely. They both turned to me. I highlighted a small entry buried in a list of transactions. One of his company's Artemis Holdings transferred a significant sum yesterday. Not to an account, not offshore. To a courier service. Cash. Vanessa frowned. So? He's rich. He moves money all the time. Not like this, I said. This wasn't business. This was personal. A drop. Which means he's still here. Somewhere close. Elena's eyes sharpened. You think he's preparing to leave? I shook my head. No. He's preparing to strike. The room went cold, because that was the truth of him. He didn't run without blood in his teeth. Before we could debate further, the door to the suite opened. Claudia walked in, her heels clicking against the floor, her expression dark. "You lost him," she said flatly. Vanessa shot up from her chair, fury flaring. "We lost him? You're the one who was supposed to be holding the leash." Claudia's gaze cut through her. "He was never on a leash. Not mine. Not anyone's." Elena folded her arms. "So why are you here?" Claudia pulled out her phone and tossed it onto the table. On the screen was a security photo, grainy but unmistakable. "Him. My husband, at a train station. He's moving," Claudia said. "Not out of the country yet. He's circling. Waiting. He has a safe house, but I don't know where." I studied her carefully. "And why show us this?" Her lips curled into a humorless smile. "Because if he vanishes for good, all of us lose. And I don't like losing." The tension in the room was a living thing, coiled and snarling. Vanessa glared, Elena measured, Claudia calculating. And me? I realized with a chill that we were no longer allies. We were rivals chasing the same prey, and only one of us would catch him first. We split the hunt. Elena tapped her network, calling in favors that cost her dearly. Vanessa, surprisingly resourceful, reached into gossip channels and whispered circles of women he'd wronged. Claudia tapped into her financial empire, following the money with ruthless efficiency. And me? I followed the courier trail. It led to an industrial district at the edge of the city. Warehouses. Abandoned factories. Places where men like him hid things they didn't want found. By the time I arrived, my heart was pounding, because I knew I was close. The warehouse was dark, the windows boarded, the air thick with dust. My footsteps echoed as I moved inside, my phone light cutting through the gloom. And then I saw it, not him, not my husband, but something worse, rows of files. Boxes stacked high. Ledgers, photos, recordings. All meticulously labeled, not just his crimes, ours, Elena's dirty past. Vanessa's humiliations. My own secrets, a blackmail vault, and it was waiting for us. The air inside the warehouse felt heavier than outside, as if the secrets stacked in dusty boxes had weight enough to bend the world. I ran my fingers along one of the file folders, my name glaring back at me in bold, clean type. My stomach clenched. Of course he had a file on me, of course. The door creaked behind me, and 3 sets of footsteps entered. Elena. Vanessa. Claudia. Their eyes landed on the rows of boxes. And for the first time since this war began, none of them spoke. It was Vanessa who broke first, stepping forward, her trembling hand pulling out a folder with her name scrawled on the tab. She opened it, skimmed a page, and gasped. Her hands shook as she held it up for us to see. Photos. Screenshots. Bank statements. Even letters she'd written him, raw, desperate, humiliating. "He kept everything," she whispered. "Every single thing." Elena's jaw tightened as she pulled her own file. Her face paled as she flipped through, her silence louder than Vanessa's tears. Claudia, calm as ever, plucked hers from the stack, skimmed it with a cool expression, then closed it neatly. "I expected worse," she said, though her voice was tighter than usual. "And me?" I slid my file into my bag without opening it. "Not here. Not now. This changes everything," Elena muttered, her voice sharp. "If this ever sees the light of day, none of us survive. Our careers, our reputations, our lives, it's all in here." Vanessa spun toward her, eyes wild. "Then we burn it. Right now. Before he can use it." Claudia arched a brow. "Burn it? And lose the only leverage we have? Don't be naive. This vault isn't just a threat, it's a weapon. In the right hands, it's unstoppable." Vanessa's voice cracked. "In his hands, it's a knife to our throats." "In mine," Claudia corrected smoothly, "it's the blade we need to finish him." The 3 of them argued, voices rising and clashing in the dark. Elena wanted to secure it, catalog it, use it as evidence. Vanessa wanted it destroyed, her shame reduced to ash. Claudia wanted it seized, turned into power, and me? I stayed quiet, letting them fight, while I slid a USB stick into a hidden port at the back of a recorder. The files began copying, silently, invisibly, because power like this? You don't burn it, you don't share it, you take it, but as the files ticked over, I caught something strange. A folder mislabeled. Shoved between years. I opened it, and my blood ran cold. It wasn't about us, it was about now, blueprints of the warehouse. Surveillance photos. Timestamped entries. He knew we'd come. Elena noticed the shift in my face. What is it? I swallowed, my voice tight. This isn't just insurance. It's bait. The room froze, and then, as if on cue, the warehouse lights flickered to life, floodlights blazed, blinding us. Somewhere above, a speaker crackled, and his voice filled the air. You always were predictable. The floodlights seared our eyes, casting long shadows against the rows of boxes. Dust floated in the air like ash, and then his voice rolled down from the rafters, smooth, smug, venomous. You really thought you were hunting me? No. My dear. I was leading you. Vanessa gasped, clutching her folder like a shield. Elena's fists clenched at her sides. Claudia narrowed her eyes, scanning the rafters as if she could pierce the shadows and drag him out. I didn't move. My pulse pounded, but I stood still, my bag heavy with the stolen copy of his vault. He laughed, low and cruel. Look at you. 3 broken women and a wife who thinks she's clever. Do you know what I see? Weakness. Desperation. A parade of failures trying to topple the man who made them. Screens flickered on the far wall, one after another, displaying images from the vault. Vanessa, in tears, begging him in texts, Elena, accepting bribes, her pristine reputation unraveling in a single photo, Claudia, signing papers that tied her to illegal transfers, and finally, me, a letter I'd written years ago, before the wealth, before the mask slipped. Words of devotion. Of blind love, the kind of letter that made me look small, insignificant, human. Vanessa's knees buckled. No, no. Please, not this. Elena grabbed her arm, forcing her upright, her voice fierce. Don't let him win. Don't let him see you fall. Claudia sneered. Pathetic. All of you. You let him own you, and now he's proving it. She raised her voice toward the ceiling. But you forget. Darling, I don't break. I use. Do you? His voice curled with mockery. Funny, because your empire runs on my blood. Every deal, every shell company, every shadow account I made you. Without me, you're nothing. Her jaw tightened, but for the first time, she had no words. I stepped forward then, into the circle of light, my voice steady. You've made one mistake. His laughter echoed, sharp and cruel. Oh? And what's that? You think this vault makes you untouchable. I lifted my bag. But the moment you opened those floodlights, you gave me everything I needed. A pause, then his voice, colder. What do you mean? I smiled, slow and deliberate. You didn't notice the transfer. Did you? While you gloated, while you played puppet master, I copied your empire. Every file. Every secret. Every sin. It's not your weapon anymore. It's mine. Silence, then a growl, stripped of charm. You think you can play my game better than me? I don't need to play, I said. Because the truth isn't a game. It's a guillotine. And now I hold the rope. A shout from above. Movement. The creak of metal. He appeared finally, stepping out onto the catwalk, fury carved into every line of his face. No longer untouchable. No longer smug. Just a man, desperate and cornered. Vanessa's voice shook. We should end him. Right here. Burn it all. Elena's eyes narrowed. No. We use it. Take him down legally, destroy him in court, make it clean. Claudia smirked faintly. No. We turn it. Take his throne. Why waste a kingdom when we could rule it? Their voices clashed, a storm of desire and fear. but I stayed calm. Because I already knew my choice, I met his eyes across the distance, my voice carrying through the echoing space. You built your empire on lies, betrayal, and fear. And you thought you could bury me beneath it. I held up the USB, gleaming under the floodlights, but you forgot something. The moment you underestimated me, you lost. And with that, I tossed it to Elena. She caught it, stunned. You'll know what to do, I said, because sometimes power isn't keeping the blade, it's knowing when to hand it to someone who'll cut clean. His roar of rage shook the rafters. He lunged forward too far, too fast, the metal groaned, and then the catwalk gave way. His body hit the concrete below with a sound that echoed like the closing of a vault. For a long moment, none of us moved. Then Vanessa exhaled, a broken laugh spilling from her lips. He's gone. Elena stared at the USB in her hand, her face torn between dread and determination. Claudia's eyes glittered with cold calculation. He may be gone. But his power isn't. I turned to her, my voice steel. And if you ever try to use it the way he did, I'll bury you too. For the first time, Claudia faltered, because she believed me. We left the warehouse one by one. Vanessa lighter, though scarred. Elena clutching the weapon that could save or damn us. Claudia silent, her ambition simmering, and me? I walked into the night with no fear, because I had faced the monster who thought he owned me, and I had won.